Hello everyone, Loremaster of Sotek here, back with another video, and I am so excited to talk about this one, because for the first time, well, with some technicalities aside, for the first time in years, many years, we have new Lizardmen. Technically Seraphon, but they're still Lizardmen. So let's dive into it. I am so immensely excited. I'm gonna get my face out of the way here so y'all can see everything for this video, because y'all don't understand. So when Warhammer Fantasy ended, there were a lot of rumors going around the community about what was going to happen to all of the different factions. And I will never forget sitting on my computer in my, I think I was at my house in Fort Worth at that time. I was in college, and the end times was like really in the midst of happening. I think it was around Glotkin's release, like the full release of or it might have been the release of Kane, but right around that time. So the end times was about halfway over. We really started to get worried. The fantasy community, you know, we kind of started to realize that the end times was not the Storm of Chaos. This was not a crazy fun event that was going to leave the Warhammer fantasy world in a new state where we would get to explore all these new stories and yada, yada, yada. I mean, it kind of did that, but not in the way we were expecting or hoping for. And instead, it was the death of our world. And it was very confusing and scary times. I don't think I've ever really sat down on a video and properly explained what it was like to go through the end times. You know, a lot of people, I think, tend to roll their eyes very heavily whenever they meet like an old guard or a Grombard, whatever you want to call it, someone who is like an older fan of the setting, and they talk about like how bad the end times was, and that's why they don't ever want to try Age of Sigmar or any of that other stuff. But as someone who loves Age of Sigmar and who has really embraced what is happened to Warhammer since then, it really is hard to put into words how difficult that whole experience was, because there were so many unknowns, and Games Workshop, of course, didn't want to communicate what they were doing to anybody because they didn't want the community to figure out what was about to happen, because they knew that it was going to be bad. So they kind of strung us along for a while. But where I'm going with this is that there was some really popular rumor mills by some individuals who back in those days were kind of considered the holiest, like they were considered true prophets. You know, they were leakers. They were people who knew what was going on at Games Workshop, and they would come on to like, I think the websites were like Warpseer or something like that, but I was on Lustria Online back in those days as a big Lizardman player. And so they would come on and they had all these rumors about all the different factions. And one of the big rumors about the Lizardmen were that the Lizardmen were going to be discontinued. So I remember sitting in Lustria Online on the forums and freaking out with everybody else, because a fairly reliable source came to us and said, yeah, no, your faction isn't going to get any more support. You're not going to get any more new minis. You're done. Like you're basically dead in the water. And it was horrifying. It was absolutely horrifying to read and hear about. And thankfully, he was hilariously wrong. But, you know, we went into Age of Sigmar and we still had our old model range, which was all right, but that's all we had. And it stayed that way for many years. And the Lizardmen did not really get any new miniatures until, oh gosh, I don't think we got anything in first edition Age of Sigmar. I do believe in second edition Age of Sigmar, I think we got a new Saurus Old Blood. My brain says that we did, but it could be that I'm just conflating that with everything that happened. I believe it was last year. But things were basically dead in the water, and playing Seraphon was fun. It was, you know, competitive, but they were basically a faction that was kind of frozen in time. They weren't getting any new miniatures at all. We didn't get anything genuinely new, and we weren't even getting our really old, outdated models re-released. And it was hard. I mean, that's why I quit playing Seraphon. It wasn't the only reason I quit playing Seraphon, but it was a major reason I quit playing Seraphon, was that I was really dissatisfied with the state of the model range, and I really liked the way Nighthaunt looked. And then the Seraphon kind of became a grossly overpowered faction for a little while, and I really didn't like the way people were playing them, but you were kind of like forced to play them that way if you wanted to be competitive. And I'm someone that really likes to be competitive. I don't want to I don't want to pay money to go to a tournament and get my ass kicked, especially because, I'm not really that great of a painter and I don't go out that often. So like a lot of the other aspects of the hobby didn't necessarily jive well with me. So, being a competitive player that would show up to tournaments was kind of the only thing I had at that time. And so I stopped playing them because I didn't like the way the faction was going. I didn't like the minis anymore. There were still a few of them I liked. I really liked the Stegodon. I really liked the Carnosaur, which is why I paid some other people who are way better painters than me to do it for me, which is why I have an absolutely gorgeous Carnosaur and an absolutely gorgeous Stegodon on my display shelf. And I kind of resigned myself to just not playing them until the old world came out. But I am so pleased to see that at long last, the curse has truly been broken. We kind of got a taste. We got a little taste at the end of second edition, which feels like it was 1,000 years ago, but I'm pretty sure it was only 1 or 2 years ago. And at the end of second edition, we had the Broken Realms event, and during Broken Realms Kragnos, Lord Croak showed up. Actually, I think he technically showed up in Broken Realms Bellicor, but the mini came out with Kragnos, if I remember right. But in any event, Lord Croak showed up with an absolutely insanely gorgeous model. But it was big, though. Like, it's a giant miniature. And I have one being professionally painted for me right now by the same individual, Palooka, who's a member of our community, who painted my Stegodon. And I'm super excited for when that job finishes. Because I can't wait to add it to my shelf and hopefully to the tabletop. But, it was kind of it. Like, we just got Lord Croak, which was super exciting. And then they came out with an Underworld warband for us, which was also very exciting, but it was a huge bummer because everything in the kit we didn't need. Like, we have some very, very nice Mage-Priest sculpts. We have some very nice, like, the Skinks have held up quite well. They look fine. But our Saurus, our Crocsagors, our Salamanders, Razordons, those all look really old. Our Cold One Riders, like, they're hideous. They're absolutely hideous. So it was hard. It was really rough kind of looking at the Lizardmen range and just kind of seeing how ugly it had become. When Total War Warhammer 2 came out, I don't know why I'm turning this into such a rant, but I am, so just deal with it. I'll include a time code for anyone that wants to skip the rant and skip ahead. But when Total War Warhammer 2 came out, it was so exciting, yet kind of disappointing at the same time for me. And it's something I don't talk about a ton unless like people intentionally egg me into talking about it, because I don't want to come off like just a mean old man that complains about new things and what the youngins are doing these days. But the Lizardmen was very polarizing for me in Total War Warhammer 2 because I loved certain aspects of the roster, but I hated other parts of the roster. And what I loved was I loved the Skinks. I loved the Saurus. The new Saurus were beautiful. The new Salamanders, the new Razordons. We even like started getting actual new units like the Chameleon Stalkers and the red-crested Skinks and like all this other stuff, which the red-crested Skinks weren't technically new, but the fact that they wielded great weapons was new and it was super badass looking. And like the red-crested Skink Chief was a really cool character. And like there were so many amazing things happening. But there were also decisions that Creative Assembly made with their design that really turned me off some of my favorite aspects of the faction. I really did not like the new Salon. The new Salon from Creative Assembly, I really didn't like them. They had these really tiny stubby fingers and like their hands were so small, and I really loved like the articulated, really like almost alien looking hands and fingers of the old ones, like the original ones. They also like kind of lost all of their teeth. Like they became very gummy looking. They made them more like actual frogs or toads, whichever. I think technically they're supposed to be frogs, but they kind of looked more like the actual creatures instead of what the Salon looked like in all of their art and their original miniatures. There were like some aspects I liked. Like I really enjoyed how they had webbed feet. But other than that, the evolution of the Salon, I really didn't like it. I also really didn't like the evolution of the Crocsagor, because they basically did the exact same thing. They took the Crocsagors that I knew and loved and had grown up with for like 15 years or however long it had been. Not quite that long. I think it was more like, no, I think maybe it was like 15 years. Yeah, it was a little less than 15 years. I think it was like 11 or 12. But they kind of took the Crocsagors I had grown up with and they turned them into something completely different. The Crocsagors are something I've talked a lot about on this channel. I think there's a video called like the Problem and the Warlock. Yeah, it's called The Problem and the Warlock, where I was making fun of Tehiniwin and Nakai and my issues with them and their DLCs, which I still have many of those issues. Though it is better than it used to be. I will say that with 100% confidence that it has drastically improved. But like, I hated the new Crocsagors because they weren't Crocsagors. They were more like a new species of Lizardmen, which was fine, but they took the place of... The Crocsagor used to be my absolute favorite. Like, the Crocsagor was my favorite subspecies of Lizardmen. And the version that CA designed, I despised it. And I still don't like it. Like, to me, it is not a Crocsagor. It is like another creature that is pretending to be a Crocsagor, because instead of being like a freakishly like terrifying muscled alien-like cold-blooded monster, it's literally just a crocodile that stood up on its hind legs. And that's not what they're supposed to be. That's not what the Lizardmen are. You know, none of the Lizardmen are reptiles that stood on their back legs. They're not Skaven. You know, where Skaven are rats that learn to walk on two legs. That's literally what Skaven are. So they're supposed to be very rat-like. You know, the Lizardmen are supposed to look very unnatural. They're supposed to look alien, and they were specifically crafted by these mysterious, enigmatic gods that we barely understand to fulfill specific roles. And they're supposed to be terrifying in a lot of ways. And CA just made some decisions that I really don't understand why they decided to change it so drastically. And the only thing I can think from like Games Workshop's perspective is that Games Workshop back then did not have any plans to make the old world at that time. So they just kind of checked out and didn't care about a lot of the decisions Creative Assembly was making. Or maybe they were just kind of like, oh, that's kind of a cool interpretation, but whatever. But anyway, I'm not here to bash on it. I'm just saying that, like, there were a lot of things that my love for the Lizardmen had kind of slowly but surely been falling apart, because the faction was just going in a direction that I really disliked. And there was a lot of change happening that I really disliked. And I just wasn't a fan of it. You know, there were definitely things happening that I loved. I loved the Sacred Crocsagors with the boxing gloves. I think those are super badass. I love that we got the Quaddle, even though I really wish it had the mouth design that it's supposed to have, instead of having the weird beak that it has never had. Literally, I'll say it a million times, that literally the only time the Quaddle looked like it ever had a beak, even in that original art, it doesn't have a beak, because it's a Chaos Dragon kit bash, and the Chaos Dragon didn't have beaks. It was just the way 6th edition, like 5th and 6th edition dragons looked. They had beak-like mouths, but they were never actually beaks. Or at least they didn't paint them like beaks. And so I was really upset with how CA designed the Quaddle as well, because it just spat in the face of all of the prior Quaddle lore and art that had been drawn since the Lizardmen were invented back in like early 5th edition. And then, which is, you know, I should have expected it, because it's the exact same damn thing they did with the Crocsagor and the Salon, is that, you know, instead of like using the reference art, they just made their own shit. Which, okay, I'm gonna get off this. I'm gonna get off my soapbox now. I am off the box. I am picking up the box, and I am throwing the box in the corner. I don't need it anymore. Let's take a look at this article. So, if you didn't catch the LVO stream, you missed out. It was super fun, and I had a very good time despite the fact I was feeling terrible. And we do have a highlight reel, was the video we put up on Friday. So please go check that out. If you haven't, you can see my reaction where I was quite literally losing my mind. But let's actually check out the article they put up and go into all the details. So, In these savage days, the forces of order are facing threats like never before, but the ineffable minds of the old ones presaged the era of the beast, and long ago set intricate plans into motion that would reinforce their armies in time to fight back. These ancient prophecies have finally come to fruition, and new spawnings of Seraphon are preparing to bring the mortal realms back in line with the great plan. Oh, look at this lad. The Seraphon operate under the command of ancient amphibian arcanists known as Salon Star Masters, sorcerous servants of the old ones themselves. Such prodigious power needs a mighty miniature to match, and the new sculpt is truly an epic centerpiece to your League of Lizards. This sculpt is fucking gorgeous. This is such a beautiful miniature. The skink attendant carrying like a little plaque is just amazing. There's all sorts of like fun little callbacks to the old minis where you got like little creatures. There's a little baby quaddle, and look, it doesn't have a beak. It has a snake head like it's supposed to. So like there's a baby quad. It's literally a quaddle. It's got a split tail, a forked tail, and it's got a serpent head, and it's a snake with feathered wings. That is a quaddle. It's just very small. CA or Games Workshop, please give me this as a miniature, but make it like at least like 50 times larger. But you got like the little frogs, but like look how active and dynamic the Salon is on this. Like he's got the cute little cheek things. You can see the fangs, and he's got like, look how good their hands look. Like they don't have those fat little stubby fingers. They've got these long, creepy fingers with like they're like nice and multi-jointed. And they have claws. They have claws on their fingers again, and like you can see their feet. And I love the way the stomach like the like their paunch like is dragged over their feet. That must be a very comfortable sitting position. Like, but you know, there's like hardcore swamp ass going on underneath that stomach. But they look incredible, and he's even got these little like he's got little bowls of beetles for him to snack on. Like they're like Ixie grubs and blue bottles, which are really famous Salon snacks. And then he's like actually looks like he's casting a spell with the rod. Like it's so beautiful. It looks so good, and like the throne of the ancients looks so much more powerful and blocky. Like this actually looks like something that would generate a magical shield. Like when you see like all the patterns and like this device in the center of it, this looks like something that would be projecting an arcane shield. And it's even got these little bits here where you're like, oh yeah, no, that's totally where it obviously is like shooting out energy to allow it to float above the ground. It's made out of plastic, which is so nice. It says, seated on an exquisitely carved and levitating stone throne, the new mage lore comes with a range of arcane artifacts, ancient accessories, and even 2 different skink attendants, which is absolutely incredible. So, I mean, look at that. You could have him built in one of 2 ways. Well, though, I'm sure you can kit bash it in a lot of ways, depending on how you want to do it. So here you can see like the anti-gravity things. You can see this skink attendant comes with a little sacred plaque. And then over here, you can have a melee skink attendant, which is so badass. So you can have a little skink with like a spear and shield. And then this one also looks like he's casting, but in a very different dynamic way. And I love the little skull throne he's holding. And he's got a headdress, which is so cool. Like, oh God, I don't even know which like design I want to go with. Like, I feel like I like this head more, but I like the headdress a lot. And I don't know if I want the staff or the skull. Like, they're both super badass looking. And like this one's got almost kind of like a gut plate. While this one's kind of got the more traditional necklaces. I know on mine, I'm definitely going to build it with both skink attendants. Like, screw only getting one. I'm going to have both. You can't stop me. Also like how, like, it looks like, they're, like, the frogs. Like, there's a frog on this one. But if you switched out, there's now a frog here instead. So, like, I bet you can clip those out. Oh, look, they even have different... Oh, my God, they even have different thrones. So you can have this one that's kind of got like the forked tongue of Sotek in the generator, or you can have like the really classic looking like 5th edition Salon Mage-Priest plate. Oh, that is so sexy. I absolutely love that. Oh, look, the quaddle's even optional too. So like you can see the quaddle's on this one, but he's not on this one. Wow, so there's like this is such a good kit. This is such a good kit, and I do like that it's more grounded than Lord Croak's. Lord Croak's model is absolutely obscenely beautiful, but it is busy, and it's also gigantic, and it's also looks absolutely nightmarish to paint and put together, which is why I paid someone else to do it. But heading into the next thing, we got a genuinely brand new unit, a complete brand new unit that there's really nothing truly like, which is that there's a new Lizardmen / Seraphon cavalry, the nimble and deadly Raptidons, and you could build them as either javelin hurling Raptidon hunters or melee focused Raptidon chargers. So these are the hunters. So the hunters come with javelins and javelin spears, and these are the Raptidons, which are these absolutely gorgeous, like feathered, plumed velociraptors. With kind of the much shorter snouts, but they're very cool looking. And they're also using these absolutely beautiful weapons that I think are called axolotls or aslotls, which are like a really awesome looking historical weapon where like you hold this little device and you throw your arm forward and it hurls the javelin like way harder than you would be able to normally. Which is so badass. And they've got a full command, so you can see like they've got this beautiful, gorgeous banner. They have really cool shields. They got a musician. This is the unit champion, presumably. But they look absolutely incredible. And to me, you know what these look like? These are freaking colchions. These are colchions. Which colchions, for those unaware, is that in Warhammer Fantasy, there's a large area of southern, not all of Lustria is jungle. There is a notably large area in the southern half of Lustria, towards the bottom, which is known as the Colchian Plains. And it's basically like it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a large plain with like a lot of really high grass, and there's very little large trees. It's a very different ecosystem. And the reason it's called the Colchian Plains is because the Colchians are the dominant species in that area. And the Colchians are said to be large, flightless bird creatures that have like terrifying teeth. And the Skinks in that part of Lustria learned how to control them and ride them as mounts. So basically, we've always had this kind of setup for Skink cavalry, but it's never been fully realized. You know, the closest thing we had to Skink cavalry were, of course, the Horned One riders, which I honestly thought that we would never get Colchians. So I've always been pushing really aggressively to give us another Lizardman unit in Total War, to at least give us like red-crested Horned One riders, like Skinks, because I really wanted there to be Skink cavalry that is not pterodons or ripperdactyls, because while pterodons and ripperdactyls are really cool, I feel like the Lizardmen are really missing a niche of like a cheaper cavalry unit that still like has some good hit to it, because as much as I love pterodons and ripperdactyls, you know, in Total War they're made out of paper because they're flyers. So pretty much anything in the game can, you know, kind of smack the crap out of them if they get the jump on them. So I wanted something that was really fast but a little more sturdy, especially against missile weapons. And these guys would be perfect. I want these so bad in Total War as Colchian riders. I don't know if we'd be able to get that. Like, I don't know if Games Workshop would look at that and be like, no, these are pure AOS. Because you better bet your ass I'm playing these in fantasy in the old world. There is no way you could convince me not to use these in the old world, because they're absolutely beautiful and fantastic models, and they look like obviously I think most of us thought the Colchians were supposed to be more like emus or ostriches, but like, although those are dangerous, like these are significantly more dangerous and look much more like a primeval version, you know, the dinosaur variant of an ostrich or an emu. And they just look incredible. Please put these in Total War. So this is the ranged variant, so like the fast cavalry variant. Though funny enough, it's also the variant that comes with shields. So these lightning fast and unnervingly intelligent reptiles are guided along the enemy's flanks by covering Skink riders who use their javelins to expose weak points for Raptidon chargers to exploit, laying into the foe with relics taken from the vaults of the old ones. So we don't know what these relics do yet, But these skinks do not use shields. Instead, they only carry these giant mace, crossbow, laser gun looking things. But these are apparently meant to be melee weapons. So I'm guessing when they charge into combat, they swing these at you and there's like a giant explosion of energy or something. I'm guessing they hurt really bad if they get a big charge up on you. So this is the melee variant and this is the range variant. We don't know much about the melee variant at this time. And then last, but certainly not least, is that behind a wave of swift-clawed cavalier stalk the Thesaurus Warriors. These cold-blooded cohorts remain the scaly backbone of every Seraphon army, and they've also benefited from some serious luxury time in the spawning pools. So we've finally got new Thesaurus Warriors, and they're beautiful. They're beautiful. Like, when we got the new Saurus for Blood Bowl, I was like, oh my god, these look so much better than the crappy old 6th edition Saurus minis. And like in Total War Warhammer, those Saurus are way more gorgeous. Like, and these look much closer to the Total War Saurus, but even these I think look better. Like these are absolutely incredible. I will say that I do miss their old shields. Like these shields feel much more sophisticated and definitely give much more of like a civilized feel to them. And I think also match much more strongly with their weapons. But I did really like the scaled hide shield that had the big spikes coming off the front of it. These actually, in some ways, look more practical to me. Like, these look much better for slashing and punching without overextending. But God, the unit champion looks so fucking incredible. Like, god damn. Also, these guys are just ripped. Like, I don't know why they're so chiseled. Like, they've got like a six-pack plus I don't even know what these muscles are. Like, they are absolutely stacked. But the banner looks incredible. The new drummer looks really good. And they look so thick in just the best of ways. The only thing that surprises me is there doesn't appear to be a shield variant. A spear variant. Like Saurus were kind of always classic for being able to be brought with hand weapon or spears, and at least so far they have not revealed a spear variant. So I'm curious if this is it, like you build them with one weapon set and that's all you get, or if there are spears and they just haven't revealed them yet. Because the thing that's also super fucking cool is down here, which is this release will be supported by a new battle tome, which means it's time to update the roadmap for 2023. You'll be seeing Gloomspite Gets and Beasts of Chaos very soon, while Seraphon are planned for a late spring alongside Redacted, and even Redacted. That's not all the Seraphon can look forward to in 2023. This teaser is just the crest of an enormous wave of righteous reptiles poised to watch over the mortal realms. So according to the announcers, this is less than half of the new stuff we're getting for the Seraphon. Like I don't even know. And here they kind of show off like this is supposed to be Starborn, which are the much more Age of Sigmar guys. So they're the Seraphon that are like quote unquote like made out of starlight. They're not actually made out of starlight. It just looks like they're made out of starlight. They actually had a pretty big retcon on them where it's like, no, it just looks like they're made out of starlight when they like teleport down. But they're still like able to be killed and stuff. They're not demons anymore. They were only demons very briefly in first edition. They've actually been not demons for longer than they were demons. So that's just a bad memory now. And then this is, they did this in the very classic Lizardmen green, back when Saurus were goblin green, in 5th edition. So that's the color scheme they're calling back to with this guy. But like these minis are absolutely amazing. And I am so beyond fucking elated with these releases, and also that this is apparently less than half. Like I can't even imagine what's waiting for us. Like I'm trying, like, oh, like I there's a lot of hope, myself being among them, that we're gonna get at least one new big dinosaur, like a Return of the Arcanodon or something similar to the Arcanodon, and that maybe we'll get like new Crocsagors and a new Salamander Razordon dual kit. I am so excited. Like if I got new Cold One Riders, new Crocsagors, a new salamander Razordon kit, and like a new big dinosaur. If they gave me those 4 things, I genuinely do not think there's anything else I would be able to ask for with a straight face. Like, I would love to see like sacred Crocsagors with the Boxagors with the boxing gloves. I would love to see maybe a Quaddle would be really badass, or like a giant snake monster for Sotek, or a Crocsagor character, like a new Crocsagor hero would be really cool. But I don't need any of those things. I do feel like I need the other stuff I said. Those if the 4 I talked about earlier, where it's like at least one big dino. I mean, that could be the Quaddle, but it could also be like an Arcanodon or something like that. And then the new Coleman Riders, Crocsagors, and Salamander Razordon, which I feel like they have to do the Coleman Riders. Like, if you're gonna release new Saurus minis, why would you not release new Coleman Riders to go along with them? Because like, you've already made the riders essentially, because they're basically like the same as these guys. Like, I imagine their armor and stuff might be a little different, but functionally they'll have the same design. But I don't know, we'll have to see. In any event, that's gonna be it for my ramble. I really hope y'all are as excited as I am. Like, listen, Age of Sigmar, you can love it or hate it as a game and as a setting and everything. I really enjoy it, and I think if most people gave it a fair chance, they would really enjoy it. But I totally understand people that don't want to do that. But you cannot deny that Age of Sigmar flat out has the most gorgeous models in the entirety of the Games Workshop product line. Like, I don't think Lord of the Rings or 40K or 30K or any of those other games can compete with Age of Sigmar, and even its side games like Warcry and Underworlds and stuff. Like, the models for Age of Sigmar are just so fucking gorgeous. And I really, really hope this bodes well for the old world, because all of these are old world viable. Like, yeah, these are Seraphon, but you can easily use all of these in an old world army, where it's like, okay, these are my Thesaurus Warriors, these are my Colchian Riders, and these are my Salon Mage-Priest. And if you're playing Age of Sigmar, you go, haha, just kidding. It's on a square base now. And this is my Salon Starmaster. This is my Raptidon Hunter or Chargers or whatever. And these are my also Thesaurus Warriors, because their name didn't even change. But anyway, let me know what y'all think. I could not be more happy and excited about this release. We got some other really cool stuff, like the new Warcry warbands look cool. The new Daughters of Cain Underworld's warband looks pretty cool, because it's all Sister of Slaughter themed. But I'm not going to do videos covering those specifically, because they're just, if you really want my thoughts on that, I'll link somewhere where you can catch my kind of live reaction. But in any event, that's going to be it for me. I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching. Bye. By the way, this video and all future videos are sponsored, and you may be wondering, who's sponsoring it? Who is Sotek shilling out money for this time? And the answer is me. I'm the one sponsoring it with stuff like this. The Dwarven Brewmaster Co. shirt, which you can buy off my merch store at tavernprince.com, aka Only Slans. And I'll have a link to it down below, and we'll also have something appear on the screen while I'm talking about it, but I'll be doing my best to remember to plug it, because I am absolutely dog shit at plugging my own stuff. So please come by the merch store. We have some really badass posters and shirts and other stuff that are fantasy themed, not necessarily all Warhammer fantasy, because we have some other stuff too, but most of it's Warhammer related, legally, I should say. So Warhammer inspired. There we go. So if you have an interest, please check it out. And it's a great way to support the community, and also pick yourself up some cool stuff. The shirts are actually super comfortable. They're very soft. I actually wear them on the regular. I've been doing so for months and have just gotten around to plugging. Thank you. Enjoy the video. Bye.